Welcome to week 6 of Intro to Business. Today we'll be talking about Chapter 7, Management and Leadership. In today's day and age, managers' roles are evolving. Managers today tend to be collaborative, emphasize teams and team building, guide, train, support, motivate, and coach their employees, need to be skilled communicators, and most importantly, team players, and also are globally prepared. Now, I know we've all had bosses that may have not, resembled a manager that I've just described. However, the ones that do tend to stand out from the rest. And I bet all of you have had an experience of a manager that has fit these criteria. Today's managers need to have all of these characteristics and traits. So what are management functions? Well, there's 4 functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So let's look at each one of those a little bit in depth. So the first one, planning. Manager helps set organizational goals. Obviously, there's business objectives, and they are charged with developing strategies to help reach those goals and set those goals. They also help determine the resources needed. Now, when I mean resources, I'm talking about overhead such as employees, maybe machinery and tools, things of that nature. And also, they help set precise standards of what employees need to live up to. The second area, leading, includes guiding and motivating employees to work effectively to accomplish organizational goals and objectives, giving assignments to people, explaining routines and developing routines, clarifying policies, and providing feedback on performance from their employees. The third area, organizing, managers allocate resources, assign tasks, establish procedures, and help with accomplishing goals. Preparing a structure or preparing an organizational chart showing lines of authority and responsibility. Recruiting, selecting, training, and developing employees. Placing employees where they'll be most effective. Finally, controlling, measuring results against corporate objectives, monitoring performance relative standards, rewarding outstanding performance, and taking corrective action when necessary. Now, when it comes to an organization, there's two items that stand out. One is a vision statement, and the other is a mission statement. A vision statement is more than a goal. It's an encompassing explanation of why the organization exists and where it's trying to go. Whereas a mission statement is an outline of the fundamental purposes of that organization, including the organization's self-concept, how they see themselves, its philosophy, long-term survival needs, customer needs, social responsibility, and the nature of their products and services. If we take a look at an example, we can take a look at the mission statement for McDonald's. McDonald's brand mission is to be our customers' favorite place and way to eat and drink. The worldwide operations are aligned around a global strategy called the Plan to Win, which center on an exceptional customer experience, people, products, price, and promotion. 4 P's, if you will. Their vision statement, however, says to move with the velocity to drive profitable growth and become an even better McDonald's, serving more customers delicious food each day around the world. Now, as you can see here, how the McDonald's mission statement includes these items, whereas the vision statement is an encompassing explanation of why the organization exists and where it's trying to go. Now, Goals and objectives when it comes to planning and creating goals and objectives for an organization. The goals are the broad long term accomplishments an organization wishes to attain, and objectives are the specific short term statements detailing how to achieve the organization's goals. So if you think about goals, they are the long term achievement plan, and the objectives are the strategies short term to help achieve those goals. So, what is the situation now? When we're talking about planning for a business, one of the first things that we do is a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a planning tool used to analyze an organization's strengths, weaknesses from the internal, and then also externally their opportunities and threats. So how can we get our goal from here? Strategic planning, tactical planning, operational planning, and contingency planning. So a SWOT analysis can help us examine how we're going to get to those goals from where we're at now. So if we take a look at a SWOT analysis, and this is your homework assignment this week, is to perform a SWOT analysis for a business of your choice. SWOT analysis includes strengths and weaknesses, which are internal items, and then externally, we have opportunities and threats. So your homework assignment, I'd love you to create a SWOT matrix such as the one shown here, where we have strengths in the upper left quadrant, weaknesses in the upper right, and then opportunities and threats in the lower left hand and lower right hand corner. Some strengths are key core competencies in key areas, being a market leader, well-conceived functional area strategies, proven management, cost advantages, and better advertising campaigns. Whereas potential internal weaknesses are no clear strategic direction, obsolete facilities, subpar profitability, lack of managerial depth, weak market image, and too narrow a product line. Whereas opportunities externally are the ability to serve additional customer groups, expand product lines, transfer skills and technology to new products, falling trade barriers, complacency among rival firms, and threats can be entry of competitors, rising sales of substitute products, slower market growth, costly regulatory requirements, and more. So if you notice, the strengths are internal and the weaknesses are internal of your organization, whereas the opportunities and threats are external. So planning functions, the forms of planning. Strategic planning is the setting of broad, long-range goals by top managers. Tactical planning is the identification of specific short-range objectives by lower-level managers. Operational planning is the setting of work standards and schedules. And contingency planning is the backup plans in case the primary plans fail. So, let's talk about each one of these in a little bit more depth. Strategic planning. This is where we determine the major goals of the organization and the policies and strategies for obtaining and using resources to achieve those goals. Whereas tactical planning is the developing of detailed short-term statements about what needs to be done, who is to do it, and how it needs to be done. Operational planning is setting work standards and schedules necessary to implement the company's tactical planning, and contingency planning is preparing alternative plans just in case the primary plans don't achieve. So you can see how each one of these plans dive into the other. Let's talk about decision making and finding the best alternative. Decision making happens when you choose among two or more alternatives. The rational decision making model is 6 steps. The first step is to define the situation. Describe and collect the needed information, develop alternatives, decide which alternative is best, do what is indicated, and determine if the decision was a good one and follow up or change courses of action. Now, problem solving is the process of solving the everyday problems that occur, less formal than decision making, and usually calls for quicker action. Problem solving techniques include brainstorming and PMI, listing all the pluses for a solution in one column and all the minuses in another, and the implications in a third column. So you can look at this as a pros and cons and the implications of those. So let's talk about creating a unified system and organization. Usually organizations are divvied into management levels, especially the big ones. You have top management levels, which are the highest level consisting of the president and other key company executives, also known as C-suite. Middle management, which includes general managers, division managers, and branch and plant managers who are responsible for more of the tactical planning and operational planning. And then you have supervisory management, who are directly responsible for supervising workers and evaluating their daily performance. If we looked at it in a pyramid, this is how it would look. Top management, C-suite, president and VP. The middle management, which includes your plant managers, division heads, and branch managers. The supervisors, and then the non-supervisory or the employees. So taking a look at that top management level again, some of the C-suite level management, the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Operating Officer or COO, the Chief Financial Officer, the CFO, and the Chief Information Officer or the CIO. Now, tasks and skills at different level of management. Obviously, there's different sets of skills. Technical skills are the ability to perform tasks in a specific discipline or department. Human relation skills are communication and motivation. They enable managers to work through and with people. And conceptual skills, the ability to picture the organization as a whole and the relationship among its various parts. Now, if we take a look at the levels of skill and which area skills, you'll notice that top managers usually have a lot of conceptual skills while less technical skills, whereas the first line managers and employees have more technical skills and less conceptual skills, whereas middle management has a little bit of each opportunity. So staffing, how do we get and keep the right people? Well, staffing is a process of hiring, motivating, and retaining the best people available to accomplish the company's objectives. Staffing is critical, especially in the internet and high-tech areas. Many people are not willing to work at companies unless they're treated well and fairly paid. Leaders have to communicate their vision and rally others around that vision, establish corporate values, promote ethics, embrace change, and to stress accountability and responsibility. It's important to keep transparency in mind when you're a manager and a leader, because this is the presentation of the company's facts and figures in a way that is clear and apparent to all stakeholders. It's important that you're transparent with all stakeholders. Leadership styles. There's many different leadership styles, and we'll take a look at 3 of them here. The acrotic leadership. They make managerial decisions without consulting others. Participative or democratic leadership, where managers and employees work together to make decisions. This often works the best. And then finally, free rein leadership, where managers set objectives and employees are relatively free to do whatever it takes to accomplish those goals. Empowering workers, progressive leaders give employees the authority to make decisions on their own without consulting a manager. Customer needs are handled quickly, and a manager's role becomes less of a boss and more of a coach. In this situation, managers enable or give workers the education and tools they need to make those decisions. Now, knowledge management is finding the right information and keeping the information in a relatively accessible place and making the information known to everyone in the firm. Now, this tries to keep people from reinventing the wheel. When we talk about controlling, making sure it works, the control function, we measure performance relative to planned objectives. We reward people for work well done. And we take necessary corrective action. A key criteria for measurement is customer satisfaction. Traditional forms of measuring success are financial. Pleasing employees, stakeholders, and of course, customers is important. External customers are dealers who buy products and sell to others. And internal customers, of course, are individuals and units within the firm that receive services from other individuals or units. And if we take a look at a diagram of the control process, we start off with establishing clear standards. Then we monitor and record performance, and we compare results against standards. Next, we communicate the results. And finally, if needed, we take corrective action. From here, we get feedback. Are these standards realistic? If they're not, we go back to step number 1 and reestablish clear standards that are maybe a little bit more realistic. And again, we start the process over. So that's chapter 7, which is management and leadership. Again, your homework assignment that's due next week is to perform a SWOT analysis. And I'd like you to perform a SWOT analysis on Pellissippi State or a business of your choice, identifying at least 5 strengths, 5 weaknesses, 5 opportunities, and 5 threats. Now, it's really important that when you do this, that you lay this out like the SWOT analysis grid matrix that is found here in this PowerPoint. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me. Until next week, this is Sean Kinnear.